Great Scott. Great Scott. Great Scott.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Great Scott. I'm Scotty V. Thanks for watching. So this week we have New York Comic-Con, which is probably the second biggest Comic-Con next to the San Diego one that happens every year, where of course every movie and television show, even some of the ones that aren't superhero or sci-fi or geeky related in any way, shows up there with their cast, and they talk about things, and they have questioning sessions and answering sessions, and probably both of those together. But this year at New York City Comic-Con is probably our last big chance to get whatever looks we're going to get at whatever comic book movies or comic book TV shows are about to come out, which includes, of course, Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. We recently started to read that the Lex Luthor appearing in Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice is not the first Lex Luthor, but is in fact Lex Luthor Jr. Now this has brought up a lot of interesting things from fans, likening it to the Doomsday story, likening it to when Lex Luthor died. That was the Lex Luthor, the one that was always Superman's enemy, died, but had his brain put into a cloned body and then returned to Metropolis, calling himself Lex Luthor II, and he was supposedly a much nicer guy and a philanthropist, and it was Lex Luthor's way of starting over because everyone on Earth knew he was a bad guy. I can't imagine that they would be going this convoluted route in the movie when we haven't seen anybody yet, and this is the first time we're being introduced to Lex Luthor. Rather, I'm guessing that this is the Lex Luthor, and he just happens to be named after another Lex Luthor, whom, of course, Superman never would have had the chance to meet, and therefore wasn't his greatest enemy, but this Lex Luthor, played by Jessie Eisenberg, is. Man, that just sounded like a crazy, crazy, confusing way for me to explain the new Lex Luthor. And the question is, why? Why do they feel it necessary to make this Lex Luthor Jr.? He's never been Lex Luthor Jr. before, except for the time when he came back to Metropolis with the red long hair and the big red beard. And he was turning over a new leaf, or he was a new guy because no one knew that he was the real Lex Luthor. So why would they do it in this movie? I don't really know. What they're saying is that the first Alexander Luthor, his father, started LexCorp, and that it was an oil and, very old, antiquated thing. It made some money, but it wasn't a big deal in the world anymore, and that Lex Luthor Jr. has now turned it into a tech company and used social media and is making things like the new Lex OS, which is an operating system like Windows or something like that. There's a video out there on Twitter. Check it out, at Alexander Luthor on Twitter, being run by Lex Luthor, a picture of the Jessie Eisenberg Lex Luthor character. This is all part of viral marketing for the film, and I think it's really cool, and the video for the OS is pretty neat. Now, of course, with Lex Luthor, he's probably got eyes in there, and if you're using the OS, he's got some way to track people or control people or be in people's business or whatever it is, or something along those lines. I don't think it's completely altruistic, although one of the biggest things for Lex Luthor over the ages has been that he believes humanity is strong enough to overcome anything and doesn't need these meddling humans in there. And of course part of that is his tremendous ego, where he thinks he's the best Superman there is on the planet. So when Superman shows up, it throws a wrench into his whole belief system of who he is and who humanity can be, with a little push from himself. So, I think it's cool that they're doing this viral marketing thing. They did it with the Man of Steel movie. They're doing it with other movies too. But I really like the way Zack Snyder and DC and whoever's in these departments is dealing with the whole social media thing and the viral marketing thing. So, how do I feel about this being Lex Luthor Jr.? I think it's a weird choice, but it doesn't necessarily make that much difference, other than the fact that they're naming Luthor's father and that he's got the same name. So what it looks like they're doing is Alexander Luthor was the father, Lex Luthor Jr. is Lex, the one that is going to be enemies with Superman. They talk about him having a meteorite collection, so obviously they're going to be introducing kryptonite, although we kind of got that idea from the trailer. So there are some things that are falling into place. Now, a few months ago, we got a picture of Jessie Eisenberg, bald, and he looked like he might have been wearing a prison jumpsuit, but maybe not. And now we get him with these weird red-haired, and everyone's calling them wigs. I don't believe those are wigs in the movie. I think that's supposed to be his actual hair, which means if that was an official picture of Lex Luthor bald, then he's going to have to go bald at some point during this movie. And will they try and use the Superboy origin where Lex hates Superboy because he's responsible for making him bald or something? That's a little crazy, so we'll have to see where they go with that. But there's a Forbes or a Fortune interview with Lex where they talk about his company and they talk about how he built it. Check it out. I think you have to enter through the link about Lex, because I went to Fortune.com to see if it was actually a story on there. I figured it wouldn't be, and it wasn't. You can't find it through the Fortune website, so you have to go to that link. There's a link on the home page for it. It's a Fortune article. It's written as if he were a real CEO of a company, and he talks about how he's going to prepare the human race for threats they don't even know about yet, and some really scary things that are out there. It's kind of cool, even though Lex Luthor was never Lex Luthor Jr., he also really wasn't necessarily the son of Lionel. These are all just reinterpretations. The father never really played an important role before Smallville, and I will say that Smallville relationship was the best one on the show. I just love the interplay. The actors played it great. They were probably the two most compelling actors on Smallville, John Glover and Michael Rosenbaum. And I don't think they're doing a father-son thing here in this movie. The father's already dead, and Lex is the guy now, so we'll see how it goes. But I think it's cool. I can't be in New York City for Comic-Con, but it's neat that they're releasing these little things and they're kind of hinting at things that are going on in the movie and making it seem as if LexCorp is a real company. Thanks, everybody, for watching, and remember, always look up in the sky. La 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 la, la 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 la.